Hey, morning traders. Welcome to another session of Market Snapshot. This is Robert Mbogo, your markets educator. And today is the D-Day. This is the day where we'll get to see some volatility coming into the markets later from 4:45 p.m. and later at 9. Now, what's important is that as traders, we should always consider fundamental analysis as key. Very important, right? A trader who's a techie, a techie is someone who focuses on technical analysis, is always at risk because news are the ones that move the markets. Okay. So a good trader is one who combines fundamental analysis with technical analysis. That gives you an edge, right? You have more parameters to work with, and that reduces your risks. Okay. So on that note, that's why every morning, before you even look at your charts, always consider your economic calendar as the go-to. In this case, we're going to look at the Forex Factory. You could use my FX book. You could use Trading Economics. You could. There's so many websites out there that you can reference, but this is the most uh, recommended. So looking at our time zones, we had the numbers, and we saw the numbers came in strong for the Australian dollar, and it strengthened. So let's look at the Canadian dollar later, 445. So we'll be seeing the Bank of Canada reporting the interest rate decision, and there's the expectation that they will do a rate cut. So traders are the previous number. What we currently have is 2.5. So traders expect this to come down with 25 basis point to 2.25. What's the impact of this? Remember, when there's an interest rate cut, what happens is that banks also reduce the interest rates that they charge on loans. So that means people and even businesses can take more loans, maybe to expand businesses, hire more people, purchase something they couldn't afford. Sorry, that's the impact of the interest decision. And as we go to the US, we'll see why Trump has been pushing hard for the rate cuts. But now let's focus more on the BOC. So this will be important news, but more importantly, we'll want to hear the rate statement, right? Basically, this is a tool the BOC uses to communicate with investors about monetary policy. It contains the outcome of their decision. Basically, why did they come up with this number 2.25, right? In a situation where we'll have the rate cut, right? What was the decision behind it, right? And also, they'll also give economic outlooks. Remember, we've seen like last a few months ago in June, there's an article where, if we go to this article, where McClem was saying the trade conflict initiated by United States remains the biggest headwind facing the Canadian economy, right? There was a clear consensus to hold policy unchanged as we gain more information. So then they maintained the interest rates, right? Because they were still seeking more information. But now Trump has come in hard. He's even cancelled further negotiations with Canada. And that means Canada has had to now look outside. We've seen them saying, okay, in light of this, we need to look at non-US allies, right? We need to look at people outside Canada to do business with, because US is hostile. So that by itself tells you that now Canada has to look at its economy, and that means a rate cut will work in handy, because now we need to expand. Businesses need to grow and look outside the US. US has been a very huge market for Canada, but then with the whole tariffs ongoing and the hostile environment, then that a responsible government is one that will now start looking outside these hostile environments. So that is what we'll be expecting to hear with regards to future outlooks and the conversation around it. And of course, at 5:30, we will now have the press conference. Now, this one is not scripted. This is where now it's McLean and reporters. So they'll have to ask questions. What maybe someone will be asking, now, in light of the cancelled talks between the US, what do we do next? How does that impact inflation numbers? How does that impact the US market? So those are the things that traders want to hear, like a hint of other rate cuts will lead to the weakening of the Canadian dollar. So remember, if we see a rate cut, the Canadian dollar weakens. So if you're looking for opportunities on USD CAD, then that becomes a buy. If you're looking at CAD JPY, sorry. If you look at CAD JPY, then that becomes a sell. If you look at CAD CHF, becomes a sell. Basically, anywhere the Canadian dollar is the base currency, it's a sell. Anywhere the Canadian dollar is the quote currency, then that becomes a buy. But then again, the press conference will be key, and also the rate statement. Why did they come up with this decision? What's the way forward? When is the next? When is when is the next rate cut? Right. So that is what we'll be looking at. The other one, of course, is Fed, which is now what everyone in the world is waiting for. So currently, the interest rate is at 4.25. Trump has been pressuring the Fed to keep cutting these rates. So the expectation is that it will go down. If we go to the Fed Watch CME group, what traders are expecting, so we can see majority of the people, 99.9% expect the rate cut to play out. Only 0.1% expect the maintaining of the status quo, which is the current 4.25. So it's not always this way, right? Majority can be up like 99%, and then the Fed maintains. But in light of what's happening in the US, remember, we are still in a whole lot of uncertainty courtesy of the government shutdown. So those are some of the things that traders are expecting to see: the FOMC statement, and also press conference. Like, Powell will be asked to share his outlook based on the, because data is not coming out from government, right? So that uncertainty brings a whole lot of problems. Yeah. But then the statement will be very key, and from this statement we'll hear Trump maybe say something like, we need more on this or something. He'll just have to make a comeback from this. So just like we've seen on the Canadian dollar, the rate statement is key, because you want the statement, yes, is key, because you want to hear why did the Fed come up with this decision. Why did they come down to 4.00? If 4.00, yes, uh, was it because of pressure, or did they work with data? Because Powell is data driven and his committee, right? So a lot of that will come in. We'll want to hear what Fed Powell will be saying. Of course, the other one is at 9:30, the press conference. Now, this one is not scripted. This is a reporter asking questions, hard questions, like, what's your take in light of maybe the whole conversation with China? But Trump is going to South Korea, right? So what's the conversation around the trade deal with China, right? So all these things and how they could impact the US, we'll expect to see some volatility based on what the Fed chair will say. There's also the other aspect of, when do we expect the next rate cut? That is also key data that we'll be expecting to hear from Powell. So those are the things that are playing out. So of course, with the rate cut, that means that the US dollar weakens, and that means it's an opportunity to buy GBP USD, Euro USD. Basically, any pair that has the USD as the quote currency, then that becomes a buy. Any pair that has the USD as the base currency, then that's a sell. So USD JPY sell, USD CHF sell, USD CAD sell. So those are the opportunities we will be looking at as we move into FOMC. Now, having looked at that, with that understanding on what's playing out in the global sphere, especially North America, Canada, and the US, let's go to our technicals. Let's now look at our charts and see what are traders saying in terms of their footprints. Yeah. So I'll be sharing my MT5. If you have any questions, please shoot them. I'll have a look at them towards the end. Okay, so we can see, let's start off with GBP USD. GBP USD had some support yesterday, and from there we can see it's been selling all the way, right? So it has hit key levels. So if you go down to some of these areas, something like the monthly low, was breached. Yeah, that was breached yesterday, right? There was that bullish move from that monthly low. Once again, if you've attended our mentorship classes, you know that the monthly low is an area with buyers, and that's why we can see that rejection that played out, but then the bearish move continues. Then we had another area here on the daily, on the weekly. We have a moving average that could act as a possible support area. Let's see how price reacts to that area. But ideally, we should expect some bulls coming in. But then the market, as it is waiting for FOMC, to give us clear directional moves. So if I were to look for opportunities, maybe we could see some bullish move later, but then it's short-lived because we are looking for sales on GBP USD. So let's look at the possible outlooks. So looking at the weekly, there's that possible support that could come in from this moving average. So you can see previously we had the moving average acting as support. Here it acted as resistance. So when used in the right context, a moving average can work in your favor. So going to lower time frames, I'll probably want to see some bullish moves from here. You can see price has hit the moving average, and we can see some bull candle almost playing out. So I'll be looking for a possible bullish move to maybe this moving average as we wait for data to come in. So as an intraday play, maybe I'll be looking at that 40 pips move, right? So let's see how the market behaves with regards to that trade. That's intraday, considering the volatility that is coming in. Let's look at Euro USD. Euro USD, we look at it from higher time frames. Maybe I will want to add my other tools here. So looking at the monthly directional, the bias looks sell. We can see the resistance that played out on that moving average on the daily. So one area where I would want to see price come to is this one. There is an order block here on my left. This is a bullish order block, which is the last bearish candle before a move up that broke structure, right? So this was a lower, this was a higher high, higher low, and then this higher high was broken by this candle, right? So this becomes a bullish order block. So I would probably want to see Euro USD test out that area before considering a bullish move. The other area where we have some buyers is here. So we can see this is what you call yesterday's low, right? Yesterday's low is also an area with buyers. So we can see the reaction from the candles. There was a how many pips move from that low? Yeah, 12 pips move. For scalpers, that is a good one. But then I would probably want to see a further bearish move before considering any bullish move. Remember, once again, FOMC will be running the show, so we could see some less movements as we go into New York, as the markets wait for that Fed and FOMC statement. So I'll be looking at that possible bearish push to the weekly low, which was the low that was set up on Monday. Yeah, here there's also some buyers. So that will be an area I would consider a buy area. So from there, maybe we could see some buys. So let me use my arrow. Once again, intraday, maybe, yeah, maybe that 42 pips move. So the target will be today's Asian high. Yeah, that's also an area with sellers. So that's more of the intraday play. And let's look at Audi USD. Audi USD from higher time frames. Once again, if you look at it from the monthly, you can see the power of the 50 EMA from 2023, right? You can see price will come to the moving average, sell, come to the moving average, sell, came to the moving average last month, drop, right? So if you look at this candle, this was almost how many pips? 247, courtesy of the moving average. So this is, remember, actually today I'll be training this strategy in our beginners class, the 8 to 9 p.m. class. For more on this, make sure that you go to the links below this video, start to trade. You'll see the evening class, yeah, the 8 to 9 p.m. class. So let's go to lower time frames. So we can see price has come to an area with sellers, which is the moving average on the daily. That's the 800 moving average, right? So we can see the reaction from the sellers. Yeah, we can see the buyers being rejected. So let's go to H4. There's also another area I would want us to consider, which is the monthly high. So let's remove all these. The monthly high. This was the high that was set up in October. Yeah, this candle here. That is also an area where there are some sellers. There's also, of course, now the moving average. The resistance we are currently seeing is courtesy of that. So we have 66.17 and 66.29. Those are two areas with sellers. So I'd probably want to see a bearish move and then a bullish move. So look at it from M15. Maybe a drop to this moving average, and then we could see price go up to those two areas, maybe at 30 pips. You know, in especially a day like today, getting your 30 pips, getting your 40 pips is okay, considering that the markets are waiting for, if you're doing Canadian dollar, the markets are waiting for BOC. And then if you're doing USD pairs, then the market is waiting for Fed later at 9. So that, get your 30 pips and walk away, right? So that's what probably I would want to see on Audi USD. Remember, this bullish move on Audi USD was as a result of today's high impact inflation news, right? The CPI news that we've just seen on Australian dollar. So they came up high. The numbers quarter on quarter 1.3 against 1.1, and then year on year the inflation had gone up 3.5 against an expectation of 3.1, right? So that led to the strengthening of the Australian dollar, which is this move, that bullish move, that 28 pips move. So let's see how the market reacts to those key areas, and then with time, maybe when the markets consolidate as we wait for the Fed, then we could see further moves. NZD USD. Yesterday we had a session, and the monthly webinar where we were discussing opportunities, and I shared this analysis, possible outlook that we could see the market go up bullish before considering the bearish move. So I still would want to maintain this analysis that I'm still bullish on NZD USD to those, either this area or this area, and then maybe we could see some bearish moves. But then these bearish moves could be invalidated if it all depends on the press conference, what Powell will say, the conversations you'll have around the economy. Do they expect other rate cuts in the year? All that could lead to this being invalidated and the dollar weakening, and that means the NZD USD will strengthen big time. Yeah, so that's something that could play out. Let's go to Euro USD. We've already done Euro USD. So let's look at USD CHF. So a good trader is one who goes to higher time frames to seek what the market is doing. So on the daily, we have some resistance somewhere around here. On that moving average, there's also an order block here. Uh, 69.99. That's almost 36 pips from current market price. So that's an area where probably we could see the market come to. And then we have another area where the market could test, which is last on H4. This is what you call last week's high. Last week's high, we have some strong sellers here. So that could be an area where the market will be moving into. So looking at USD CHF, maybe we could see that bullish move to those two areas, either last week's high or what you've seen on the daily, an order block. Yeah, there's one. This bearish order block, the last bullish candle before a move down that broke this structure. Yeah, so that's an area where we'll want to see maybe USD CHF go to. Okay, so let's look at USD CAD in light of what will be playing out at 4:45. So if we go to higher time frames, let's see. We have some possible buyers here at 38.87, and also we have an order block here at 38.31. Yeah, so this is what you'll call a bullish order block, the last bearish candle before a move up that broke structure. This area has not been tested, so that's an area where price could easily come to. Okay, sorry. For a minute there, I lost my screen. Okay, let's go to H4. What are we looking at? You see, there's also a move. Apparently, there's a moving average down here, right? Which is in line with the weekly analysis. So, what would we want to see? Go to lower time frames. So remember, your work is to look for areas with buyers and sellers, right? Then map your trades and see what will happen when price gets to those areas. So we've just seen that there'll be a rate cut. So that means we expect a weak Canadian dollar going into New York session, right? So if it will be a weak one, then we expect a bullish USD CAD. Yeah. So before we get there, maybe the market can first hit these areas could hit these support areas. So maybe we could see the market do this. take on a bearish move. It could spike to that low, and then maybe we could see some bullish move. That could be a possibility on USD CAD. Yeah, price hitting this low, and then maybe a bullish move. So that's what I would want to see on USD CAD. Because currently what has happened is that on H4, there's another block here that has been tested. See this candle here? This one, this red candle. This is what you would call a bullish order block, which is the last bearish candle before I move up that block structure, right? So that is what has been tested. And all of a sudden you can see the reaction. You can see even the close of that candle on M15. Yeah, it was rejected initially, right, because of the buyers on that order block. But then we can see some bullish tweezers. So we'll probably want to see that bullish move and then a bearish move coming in. Maybe if I were to map out something here, the Asian high could act as a possible resistance. Yeah, that one. Oh, interesting. There's even a moving average here. So I would want to see how USD CAD reacts to this area, because we have two confluences. There's a moving average, the 800 moving average. And there's also what I would call the Asian high. So that presents this as a possible strong resistance. But then again, let's see how the market does. Remember, our work as traders is to map out areas with buyers and sellers. Then wait for confirmations. Never trade without confirmations, right? Those are your confluences. Like in my case, I love looking at my RSI. That I cannot, if I'm looking at sell trades, I cannot take a sell trade until price hits the 70 region. So looking at my past, the last time USD CAD came to the 70 region was here, which was this move. And USD CAD dropped how many pips? 65. 65 pips. So looking at my left again, there was that drop, which is this one. So this is a confluence that I consider before I enter any market. Okay, so in my case here, I can only enter USD CAD when probably we see a move to this 70 region, which could be this now area I've mapped out. Then I will now look for sell opportunities to this low. Then now look for buy opportunities. Okay, so let's look at the other one. We've just looked at the majors. Which one? USD JPY. Go to higher time frames. The daily chart. H4. So maybe we could see USD JPY come to that area. There's another block here. Let's look at it from H1. Yes, you can see actually USD JPY has a gap that is yet to be closed. So if this bullish move was to come up, then it will be an interesting play, because it will close this gap, and then maybe from there we will see maybe it could play out right now as we move into FOMC, right? That bullish move. And then as we anticipate the weakening of the dollar, that's when now we could see a bearish play. The target, remember, we still have this gap that is yet to be closed. I know so many traders who tried trade in this gap on USD JPY, and some had to blow their accounts because they kept removing their stop losses, and then USD JPY kept going up. But this gap will need to be closed at some point, right? Question is when, yeah? And do you have the funds to wait for this gap to be closed? So always be wary that not every day that the gap will close next day, next week, no, as we can see in this scenario, right? It's been how many weeks? 1, 2, 3, 4, we're on the 4th week. This gap is yet to be closed. So I'll take note of that, and it will save you moving forward. So I would want to see that bullish move on USD JPY. And then once we get there, then I would probably be looking at sell opportunities to today's low. That's 130 pips move. And then if you go to H4, there's also another area here that could act as a take profit, 195 pips. There's also a moving average that could act as support. So we can see the last time price came to the moving average. Once again, this is a strategy I'll be training today, 8 to 9 p.m. The power of the moving averages when used in the right context. You really need to have the context for it, right? For you to understand how it plays out. Okay, so that's it on USD JPY. Let's look at gold and finalize with UT100, XAU USD. What's gold doing? Go to higher time frames. What did gold test? So we can see periods of higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, right? So this one becomes an order block. That one, right? This is a bullish order block. The last bearish candle before a move down. Let's see, did gold test it? Not yet. So that becomes a possible area where gold could be coming to later, and even on the moving average. If you look at, once again, look at the moving averages acting as support on gold. So it will seem like if you look at gold, the moving average has acted as support this year strongly. Yeah, so probably a move to that low would present us with an opportunity to enter the market. For now, let's see how gold reacts to this yesterday's high. There are some sellers there. Maybe also this order block. Let's do it on the order block on H1. See this order block here. This is a bearish order block. The last bullish candle before I moved down that broke this structure. So this lower low was broken to form the next lower low. So this candle becomes a possible area of resistance on H4. Don't be surprised to see gold move to the moving average. These are possible areas where you have some sellers. So for now, I will probably be looking at that bullish move on gold, either to that high or that one. Those are the two areas I would want to see a gold go to. Then maybe from there we can see the continuation of the bearish move. Then we have UT100, Nasdaq. Remember, this is a basket of companies, tech companies. This is Microsoft, this is Alphabet. And by the way, later today we'll be seeing earnings from Meta, Microsoft, and Alphabet, right? So the three key magnificent stocks, they'll be having their earnings. That's an opportunity for us, but then FOMC will definitely have an impact. Remember, for some of these companies, for them to expand, they rely on loans, right? So that means if like we've seen the high expectation that the Fed rate will come, the interest rate will come down, then that's a plus for them. But then there's another lingering issue, the uncertainty in the global markets, especially China and US, where they'll be having that conversation in South Korea. So those are the macro things that could affect basically some of the stocks, because remember, they have clients in China, they have clients in different parts of the world, right? So there could be that impact playing out. And of course, we can't even avoid to discuss the whole issue of the government shutdown. Though the market has already priced in that whole government shutdown, but then opportunities are still there for us to leverage on. So UT 100 has hit all-time highs. So uh, there could be a possibility that before we continue with the all-time highs, maybe the market can come and close this gap before continuing with that bullish move. So this one is an interesting play. Once again, I know there are some traders who've been trying to trade this gap from Monday. They've been trying to sell Nasdaq and they've been taking a serious beating, right? So don't just trade based on a gap. This is why you need to have other confluences. Look at other things before you enter the market, yeah? And fundamentals, very key, yeah? Okay, so let's see. Probably I would want to see a test of 26,250. Has it been tested? Let's see, because that's a quarter point. 2670, 26,170. Okay, interesting. So we can see the rejection candles playing out here. We can see the shooting star. We can see a doji. So maybe we could see some bearish move on UT 100 to the moving average, or even to yesterday's low. That's a possible play on UT 100. We can't rule out the possibility of this gap being closed today. It all depends on, of course, what will come out from the FOMC. That's it. With regards to analysis, we've just done the majors: GBP USD, Euro USD, AUD USD, NZD USD, USD CHF, USD CAD, USD JPY, gold, and UT 100, which is Nasdaq. Let me see some of your questions as we wrap up. USD CHF done. Eric, kindly have a look at that analysis. Any other? USD JPY done. Morning USD CHF. One risk one. Take a look at BTC. I'll have a look at that. So the Sydney session midnight 8 a.m. Then we have London session 10 to 6 p.m. and then we have the New York session 3 to 11. We've already done gold, we've already done GU. Kindly go through the analysis that is done. So let me finalize with gold, sorry, Bitcoin, and call it a day. Okay, so where's BTC? First one. Go to higher time frames to have a clear understanding of where we are. On the weekly, there's that bullish move. On the daily, there's that resistance. So you can see the moving averages acting as support on Bitcoin. So this strategy works even on cryptos. Yeah, no miss out our session at night. BOC, Bank of Canada. That's probably what I would want to see on Bitcoin intraday. Yes, the Nakuru office was closed last year. Okay, so that's it, guys. Thank you for your time. Make sure that you're observing risk management, especially during this time, and that means you need to be playing safe, right? That's the only thing that will keep you in the business, right? Risk management. You really need to have that capital when the opportunity presents itself. The moment you don't observe risk management, you'll be in a situation where you blow your accounts. The next time an opportunity arises, you don't have the funds to trade. You have to go looking for funds. By the time you're on that journey, the opportunity is gone. So just observe risk management. Yeah. Otherwise, bye bye. See you next tomorrow. There's another bullish there's another market snapshot, sorry. So always look for those trading analysis. Remember, this is purely educational analysis, right? We're just covering the markets based on our knowledge. At the end of the day, it's up to you to execute your trades based on your knowledge. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.